Hello again, everybody, and welcome to my final video. I just wanted to say at the top of this, thank you so much for working well with me over the course of this class. I had a wonderful time. I learned a lot of things, not only from the course, but from you guys as well, and from your videos. So I appreciate all the work you've done and all of the work that you will continue to do. So good luck on whatever you do after this, and I look forward to hearing about all your various successes. With all the pleasantries out of the way, let's begin this video. Ever since I was a kid, playing video games has been my absolute favorite activity that I do in my free time. I've played them almost every day for years, and it's still as fun for me now as it was back then. And now that I'm on my way out of school, I find myself in a bit of a very unique position as I try to find out what I want to do with my life. Um, but I'm willing to bet that if the stars align, that I'll find myself somewhere in the video game industry, because gaming is important to me, and I want to help it grow as much as I can. I actually, like I said before, I started playing games very young, and I still actually pull out my Nintendo 64 from time to time for the nostalgia, and I absolutely love it. Um, I like looking back on these old games because they remind me of how far the gaming industry and gaming in general has come over the years. And, well, like most gamers, I started out playing classics like Mario and Zelda. But as I grew, the gaming industry grew with me, allowing for the creation of more realistic looking games, more uh, varied gameplay with more complex stories, and with new and fresh experiences coming out every year. I look forward to it every single time. The gaming industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry that has earned its place alongside Hollywood films as one of the most popular forms of entertainment in the world. But in the same way that the movie industry had to earn its own right in the world, video games have had their own crucibles to go through. In the case that I will be discussing today, Brown versus the Entertainment Merchants Association is one of those crucibles. So let's begin. For years now, video games have been under fire by concerned adults who worry that the violence in modern video gaming serves as a potentially massive threat to the young people that play them. The fear is that violent video games cause aggression in players, who then bring that aggression into the real world. Almost as if I think the words they use are, they failed to realize that there is a difference between the game and reality, which, in my opinion, is absolutely ludicrous. Now, let's not get too hasty. I'm not denying that modern video games are not violent. In fact, quite the contrary. There's actually no denying that modern video games are an inherently violent medium, with the vast majority of video games containing some sort of combat in them. In a world where video games allow you to do this, or this,
I don't like this.
Someone tell me they filmed that.
You're a waste of space on this earth.
you can imagine why some people would have problems with gaming as an activity. Video games have been a scapegoat for numerous problems that have occurred in their players, from general aggression to, I guess, in the far-fetched part of it, they're blamed for the Columbine massacre. However, there have been several studies over many, many years that have proven that video games are, in fact, not the cause of such aggression, with one study occurring as recently as April of this year saying that there is no correlation between the two things. But that doesn't seem to stop lawmakers from trying to put a cap on the sale of violent video games, which is what our case finds itself based around. Let's start off with a little background info. In 2005, California passed state legislature AB 1179, which bans the sale of violent video games to minors, which is defined in the law itself as anyone under the age of 18. And then they cannot get access to them without direct parental supervision. It also would require that game publishers would add a label, an additional label to the game box that would display this fact, and this comes in addition to the ESRB rating, which already exists. For those of you who don't know, the Entertainment Software Rating Board, or ESRB as it's more well known, is an organization that was formed by the US government in 1993, the year of my birth, oddly enough. The ESRB assigns rating and age recommendations to the games themselves based on their content. The developers will actually send a decently sized video to the ESRB of a good sample of all of the different types of content, violence, sexual content, that kind of stuff, in their games, so the ESRB will give it a proper rating. These ratings can be found in the bottom right-hand corner of every game box and on every game disc, and they range from E for everyone, like you see on the screen, to the very rare AO, which is for adults only. I say it's very rare because in all of my years, I don't think I've seen a single one that has been rated AO, and the ones that are, that at least in my research, are not even that bad by today's standards. However, the majority of games that are targeted by laws are games that are given the M rating, which are for mature players, and which the game themselves suggests is the age of 17 and up. Personally, I find that the addition of such a law as the one California was going to put forward seems like a somewhat pointless thing, because when such an organization as the ESRB exists, I don't understand why such a law would be necessary, as this is what the ESRB is for. It is to label these games so that the people who purchase them can make an informed decision based on the content of the game. But, and if you think about it, with such a system in place, it means that it's actually the parents or the people who buy them who should be held responsible, not the games themselves, as this law aptly targets. Anyway, the law would prevent the sale of violent video games. And I use that word in quotations because it is a key phrasing of this case. Those who were found breaking this law would receive a penalty of up to $1,000 for each infraction. The bill was signed into law by California Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger, yes, that one, in October of 2005, and it would have gone into effect in January of 2006 if the following events had not occurred. To quickly put things into perspective, if such a law was passed, it would have had a massive impact on the gaming industry as we know it, cutting off a massive portion of their overall sales. Such a law could also serve as an example to other states that who might pass similar laws, dooming the gaming industry as we know it. To speak freely for a moment, the death of the gaming industry would make my life so much harder. Not only is it because I like to game in my free time to relax, but it's because it is often my easiest means of being social, as I'm normally a kind of reserved guy. It would also put my future as a member of the gaming industry at risk. If the games couldn't be sold, then people wouldn't make them. And then people from every edge of the industry, from programmers to voice actors, would lose their avenue of income. I want the industry to remain free to prosper so that if I eventually join it, I can be secure in my decision to do so. Anyway, back on topic. In order to protect its rights as a creative medium, the gaming industry formed the Entertainment Merchants Association to fight against the passing of the law. The Entertainment Merchants Association, or the EMA, is an international non-for-profit association whose mission is to protect and promote the business interests of those who develop, create, and distribute video games to the public. The organization was actually created in 2006 in order to combat this law, and was created by bringing together the previously created Video Software Dealers Association, or VDSA, and the Interactive Entertainment Merchants Association, or the IEMA. Both organizations have had successes in their own on their own, protecting the rights of video game distributors and developers, but they would have to come together like a video game Avenger team to fight this particular enemy. The EMA prepared a lawsuit to overturn the law on the grounds that the law violated their First Amendment rights. They also pointed out that the wording of the law had several severe flaws that, if left unchecked, could have an even greater impact on the video gaming industry. The EMA argued that the law's definition of violent video games was extremely vague and might have an effect on games that the ESRB had rated to be safe for children. While I could find no direct quote about their argument on this part, I think I can sum up what they meant. Like I said before, the vast majority of games have different things that could be construed as violent. For example, would you think that the Nintendo classic Super Mario Bros. Is a violent game? Most of us would say no. However, if you think about it, you are jumping on and killing the Koopas and Goombas that get in your way. Nothing in the law that was presented would clarify what the difference between an unacceptable amount of violence and innocent violence. None of it was made clear. Under such a law, even a simple game like Mario could be banned from sale. The defendants of the law responded to this by claiming that the definition of violent video games had been created by using a variation of the Miller test, which we're all familiar with by now. Anyway, the EMA filed the suit with the United States District Court for the Northern District of California. While the law had many high-level members of the government supporting it, including Schwarzenegger himself, in August of 2007, the preliminary courts decided to block the enforcement of the law. The district judge, Ronald M. White, cited that his decision was, the plaintiffs have shown at least serious questions are raised concerning the state's ability to restrict minors' First Amendment rights in connection with the exposure to violent video games, including the question of whether there is a causal connection between access to such games and psychological or other types of harm to children. He based his decision on the facts that he believed that the law did in fact violate the First Amendment, and also because the defendants had failed to show definitive evidence that video games differed from other media in their ability to incite violent behavior in their customers. This insight would become a recurring one as the case would make its way through its different levels of courts. The case was appealed to the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals by Schwarzenegger, who stated that as an elected official of California, he had a responsibility to our kids and our communities to protect against the effects of games and their ultra-violent actions. It's quite a quote there. However, the court seemed to disagree with his notion. The Court of Appeals' job in this case was to consider the law's constitutionality and if it indeed had violated the First Amendment. In the end, the court believed that this was true of this case because the defendants had not demonstrated a compelling interest, meaning that they had been unclear in their wording of the law in its reference to violent video games. Once again, the law was denied. And, once again, Schwarzenegger appealed the case, this time to the Supreme Court by writing a writ of certiorari, which was accepted by the court for review. After having made its way through two courts already, the Supreme Court shaved down the various complexities of the case to a single question. Does the First Amendment actually bar a state from creating laws that restrict the sale of violent video games? In a decision of 7-2, the Supreme Court decided to side with the plaintiffs, the EMA. Yes! The court's opinion was written by Justice Scalia and concurred by Justice Alito. The court acknowledged that it is actually very difficult to distinguish entertainment from politics, and that the effects of entertainment may differ from person to person. Quote, "What is one man's amusement teaches another man's doctrine." End quote. However, the main reasons that the court voted this way was because the case of the defendant seemed so directly tied to video games specifically. The court pointed out that violence had been a constant presence in entertainment since its inception, like movies and books, and yet they had never been blamed for inciting aggression, and they were protected by the First Amendment. So why wouldn't video games receive that same treatment, as they do very much the same thing, with the only difference being that you have in direct interactivity with the medium rather than just watching it or reading it. I believe this quote from Scalia's opinion best summarizes the court's thoughts. Like the protected books, plays, and movies that preceded them, video games communicate ideas and even social messages through many familiar literary devices such as characters, dialogue, plot, and music. And though features distinctive to the medium, such as the player's interaction with the virtual world, that suffices to confer First Amendment protection. Under our Constitution, ethical and moral judgments about art and literature are for the individual to make, not for the government to decree. It also sums up my own belief as well, that the government should not be called upon to ban something that isn't the fault of the medium itself. Sure, games are violent, but gamers know what they're doing when they're playing them. But I'm sure there are some kids out there who this might actually help. There are kids out there who aren't ready to play these games. But a ban shouldn't be the thing to keep them out of their hands. The parents should be the ones to do that. If a parent is afraid that a game might have a bad influence on their child, then simply don't buy it for them. If a parent is unsure about a game's content, then research the game online and find your answers there. And use that information to make an informed purchase. Games aren't the threat. They're an art form, just like everything else. That is the future that I want to see. I want to see a future where video games are given the amount of respect they deserve, that they're not treated as a means to an end or a scapegoat for other people's problems. And I think this case does the best thing that I could ever say to prove that the video game industry is willing to fight to earn that respect. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your summer. Thank you very much.